brother. Hey, Ben.
Hey.
Tell me about this awesome podcast / radio show.
Watching from Ringside?
That one, yes.
Yes.
Where we do great impressions like... Now that you're going to do your Macho Man, okay.
Oh, ooh, yeah.
Or, I'll tell you what. What? Or, hey, baby. I can't do... I'm trying to do my Dusty.
Baby.
Hey, baby. How you doing, baby?
How you doing?
I'll tell you what, baby.
Wrestling, watching from Ringside. Is that you?
That's me, baby. Live and in living color.
Only on KXVS, baby, the voice of Stockton.
So people on the Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope land are tune in any way you want to because we are watching from Ringside.
All day, every day, only on Friday. And maybe Saturday too. Sometimes on a Sunday, because you know they got them special shows. Know what I'm talking about, baby?
Stop stealing my gimmick. But yeah. Ben, let's get into all seriousness. This is like, watching from Ringside, as we were talking about, is a pro wrestling show with
the
fun.
only pro wrestling show on KXGS.
Or in Stockton.
Or in Stockton, yes.
Yeah, come tell us if you're somebody else.
The premier podcast.
Yeah, the premier podcast of pro wrestling talk in the Central Valley is me and Ben, and it's fun. So we talk about the world of wrestling from our perspective and give you the latest going-ons of what's going on in the world of wrestling, right?
Yep. WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor.
All In
NXT.
too.
Yeah, and All In.
Which is brand new.
Brand spanking new.
So we're
Could
gonna
change the face of wrestling as we know it.
We're gonna break down all of that throughout, well, whenever we have a show. So I'll tell you what, Ben.
What?
Watching from Ringside Fridays on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. For Ben Sanchez, I'm Dustin Brightfield.
KXVS on 92.1. Coming soon.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
And welcome into Watching from Ringside, Dustin alongside the one and only Ben Sanchez as I make my way to my seat. Hey Ben, how are you?
Good, how are you doing? I heard like something over there, like a huge squeak. I don't know what that was. Was that a mic?
I think it was a car outside.
No. Yeah, maybe it was a car. We're getting a little unusual traffic over here.
Yeah, we are. Mm-hmm. So what's new with you?
Not much. Busy week, you know.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just stuff at the chamber, podcasts. We got stock market coming up.
Tomorrow,
10. Be there.
10 to what, 4, right?
10 to 4. Doesn't matter how you get there, right?
Yeah.
You could bike there, you could walk there, you could carpool there. There's plenty of ways to get there. RTD, probably got a bus route there.
Yeah, RTD. Nate Knopp would tell you the bus route, but he's not here.
Yeah, he's not here, but... Of course, our buddy Donovan works there too, right?
Yeah, so Donovan works there. He probably knows bus routes. But, so yeah, we're watching from Ringside, the premier podcast in Stockton Wrestling, because I don't know if there's actually any other podcasts talking about wrestling.
There might be.
Yeah,
there might be one out there that's not known yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... But here on KXGS is the only...
What is this, episode 6 almost?
I think we're at 6 now, right?
We're almost to 16. Challenge mode.
Yeah, challenge mode 16.
We don't even count yesterday's. Yesterday was like a preview.
Yeah, that was a
tease
tease.
thing.
That was a little teaser.
Yeah, that was a 30-minute segment.
Yeah, just 30 minutes.
Rambling.
Was it rambling?
I think so. I didn't listen back to it, but, you know, it is a big week of wrestling news, though. We got a lot of news.
Huge week in wrestling. You know, one of the things we saw the other day, I might as well get it out of the bag now, is CM Punk and his buddy Colt Cabana.
We saw that yesterday, actually, after our preview teaser show.
Yeah, it's, you know, anybody familiar in wrestling knows, you know, these guys and how big of especially CM Punk, how big of a name he was. And
Colt Cabana is pretty big in the indie wise, but
he is
podcasting.
Yeah,
wise,
Art of Wrestling.
Art of Wrestling.
If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Colt Cabana.
But if people don't know, he actually change the format because of CM Punk of his show.
Right, and so the whole issue really stems from when CM Punk left the WWE, of course.
Was that, how many years ago was that now? 3?
Yeah, I feel like it was about 3 years ago.
2014?
Huh? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And, because he had taken time to get a contract with UFC and then start training and to do that.
He's 0-2.
Yeah, he's 0-2. But yeah, what that stemmed from was he'd just been beat up over X amount of years, no time off. He had
he was kind of like the up and rising star.
He was, yeah. He was just a champion at the time. They still wanted him to work. He wasn't feeling that great. He was just seemed like he was out of he didn't have the drive anymore, right?
Well, yeah, they needed to put the title on somebody because Cena was doing, Cena's been off a couple of years now, like he's a part-timer. But, like, Edge was gone. Who's the other guy to give the title to? They didn't really have anybody yet. They trusted. They gave it to CM.
And so, yeah, what happened with that was there was got a medical examination. And that didn't quite go over too well. That was a misdiagnosis, right?
Yeah, the WWE doctor.
So that all went on air after Punk left on Colt Cabana's podcast, and that's where that all stems from. So there's been this huge legal battle, right, for quite some time.
And there's been a falling out between those two.
And of course, there's a falling out, and of course those guys have been best friends for probably 15 plus years or so.
Not anymore.
Yeah. So what happened was that CM Punk and Colt Cabana won the case because the medical doctor had sued them.
Yeah, for defamation and libel.
Defamation in the podcast because that's definitely all of that was mentioned. It was kind of a tell-all, right?
Yeah.
And so now that they've won that case, Colt Cabana has filed against CM Punk.
Yeah.
And that was for legal fees, right?
Because I think CM promised Colt he would pay.
Right, he was going to pay for the if not, it was covered, right? Even if it wasn't 100% covered, it was.
Well, I get this from the sense of Colt saying, "Can you pay for these fees?" Because one, you're the one that said all this stuff about the doctor. I was interviewing you.
Yeah,
it's my show, so okay, I'll take half the blame. But we won the case, but. Really, you're the one that said about this doctor, and I was just giving you a platform so you could speak about what you wanted to speak about because you wanted to get stuff off your chest.
And there it is. That's kind of the long. That's the long and short of it. Is so now these two good friends are, coming to terms in the court, right?
Yeah. So basically, some of the text messages they also said about like, CM says, "Yeah. Well, I'm not going to pay it now."
Yeah. You're on your own, buddy. Something like that. And of course, and that's the thing about legal issues today, right? There's so much documentation. Before we didn't have.
Well, that's the first big
all that tech,
like defamation libel lawsuit in a while, I think.
Yeah. So now Colt's got all these texts that he's saved and
given
used
his
them.
attorneys.
Yeah, and we'll see how that plays out. Like, this is the next huge thing, kind of, obviously it's wrestling related, and it's not a
storyline.
Which
you can make it easily into.
Yeah, you definitely could. So I don't know. I mean, Colt Cabana is going to be All In, and he's going to be at the Starcasts.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's change the subjects from being like. Not sad, but let's change it to some good news.
Yeah, so
All In.
Yeah, but I think before we get to All In, we should probably touch base on Mae Young Classic. Mae Young Classic started. They had the Parade of Champions, so you were introduced to all of the female competitors. So what the Mae Young Classic is, what WWE decided to do last year. It's the second annual. So last year they did it on the network. They got 32 women from around the globe to compete against each other in a tournament. And, some of those women have gone on to get contracts through the WWE, or they've gone on to do other things in the indie scene.
Yeah, last one of them that stands out is Tess Blanchard last year. She was with WWE Development for a while, but she never really got her fair shot, she thought, so she went to doing indie stuff, Impact Wrestling now. Now she's part of All In also.
Right. Yeah. And that's a definitely a cool platform that they've created for them to get global exposure. And so we had the winner last year. Kairi Sane beat Shayna Baszler.
Both are in NXT now.
Yes, both are in NXT now, and they're actually going to be competing in Brooklyn for it's August 18th.
Yeah, next weekend.
Yeah,
wow.
next weekend. So that's going to be a busy weekend.
Got SummerSlam weekend.
Yeah, it's a busy weekend for wrestling as
Stay
well.
Stay tuned to watching from ringside.
And so the Mae Young Classic 2018 comes back this year, and so we've got a lot of new faces. We've got a lot of old faces, you know, from the previous year. Like you said, Tess Blanchard's back. Toni Storm.
No, I don't think Tess is actually back this for.
Oh, she's not back for the Classic?
I don't think so. I think she signed with Impact, so she can't do it.
So she can't do it. So, but I know Toni Storm for sure is back.
Who's now part of also NXT UK.
Yeah. So she's returning. Mia Yim returned this year. We saw a lot of familiar faces on the whole opening show.
Madison Rayne, Ashley Rayne.
Yeah. So Ashley Rayne's there. And of course, Caitlyn returns after being gone from WWE for what, like
6 years, 5 years?
So, yeah, it's around there, 4 or 5 years, something like that. So she's really gotten in shape and really
different shape too.
Yeah, she looks different, completely different. And so obviously all of that footage you'll be able to see in September.
Yeah, late August, September.
Late August, early September.
So
we'll be airing that on the network.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Mauro Ranello's doing bracketology, which is probably going to be really cool because if anybody knows Mauro, he's a wrestling historian, wrestling. He knows everything.
Yeah, so he
dives into it.
So that'll be cool to watch too. I'm kind of curious. I've never seen a bracketology show.
And it's interesting because I think Mauro's the perfect guy to do it with because as we spoke about, he's a great play-by-play guy, but he's a great personality and he can get into it and he likes voice of NXT and voice of kind of every martial art, boxing, but it's pretty cool to see him doing this with the network. And also network news, calling the Mae Young Classics, Michael Cole doing play-by-play alongside Beth Phoenix, the Hall of Famer,
and Renee Young.
So it's a great broadcasting team.
Yeah, it's really cool, and of course that was part of the we've seen a little bit of that announcement stuff too. Renee Young is going to be a guest commentator on Monday Night Raw this coming Monday,
and it's interesting because we saw Renee a couple of weeks ago be like, I want to have a chance to do commentary again because when she first came in, she kind of did some with NXT, but she's been focused more on backstage stuff, in-ring interviews, pre-shows, talking smack when it was on.
Yeah, and then of course the you're right, the pre-shows with the pay-per-views as well,
the panels, and
of course probably some social media stuff here and there.
But it's gonna be awesome to see her working with Beth Phoenix for the Mae Young. But this Monday for the Go Home show, she's filling in for Coach on commentary on Raw with Corey Graves and Cole.
So that should be really cool. Monday night should be really good for elevating the broadcast team. I think Renee Young really brings a lot of cool stuff to the commentary booth. She just reminds me of one of those people that's very quick thinker,
comedy wise.
Yeah, just comes out with these, really really quick on her feet to pop, something, and it's fun. It's cool. She's having fun, and that's good.
Reminds you of kind of like the non-wrestler in the booth again, like Mark Bann when he was on WCW, and a couple other people. But the non-wrestler fan kind of perspective in the booth.
And that's always fun to see, right? It's always kind of cool to get like a non-wrestler fan perspective.
Yeah, Paul Heyman was great in the booth when he was he was part of the business, but as a color commentator, I think he was actually pretty underrated.
Yeah, he was.
That one year he filled in for
Jerry very much like a Joey Styles, underrated too, right?
Yeah,
very much a fan kind of wrestling. Very really involved in wrestling, just not in the ring, right? You're involved in other aspects of the business.
Well, if you think about it, WWE's kind of taken their roles with commentators differently, the color commentators differently lately, because we saw this kind of with Matt Stryker. He wrestles for a little bit in the ring.
Yeah, he did.
Injuries kind of cut his career short. Then we saw Byron Saxton and Corey Graves now. There's not that real true champion anymore as your color commentator because he used to have Jerry Lawler, he was a champion. Justin Ventura wasn't champion, but he was an elite wrestler. WCW didn't really. Larry Zbyszko, a couple other guys, but you don't really. JBL was probably the most recent one, but you don't have a true world champion as your color commentator no more, and you kind of don't need it because the fans are loving the commentary.
Yeah, I don't think it's really necessary anymore. I mean, like you said, they kind of changed they shifted gears a bit with the commentary. So I think that's cool.
And that's interesting because Vince, as we know, he likes to. That's one thing he's really hard on is his commentators.
Yeah,
because he's in the air of all of them. That's why Mick Foley quit.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a cool announcement that's happening. And I think that's gonna set the pace for the commentary booth going forward because we have the women's pay-per-view Evolution,
which probably Beth and Renee are going to be part of.
I have a feeling Beth and Renee will definitely be
Stephanie
a part of that.
McMahon be the play-by-play announcer?
Well, I don't know. And if she's not, I think she's probably going to try and insert herself as a match.
That's what the rumors are right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, we've got that to look forward to, and that's in October. That's a couple months out.
28th, yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite a ways out. But I think that's happening right now is really leading up to that. And so that's why, the Mae Young Classic's kicking in. That's why you're going to be able to watch these women compete and, the different brackets and things like that. And of course, your pick was it Toni Storm?
Yeah.
Was one of the picks?
She's very underrated out here. I haven't really watched her wrestle, but she's part of UK NXT. She's going to be part of All In a couple weeks. So at the Fatal 4-Way matchup, I believe that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But she was in the competition last year, so it's going to be fun to watch her in the Mae Young Classic.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that 4-way is Tessa Blanchard, Chelsea, Britt, and Madison Rayne.
Yeah. So all great wrestlers.
Yeah, I don't think Tony's part of that.
Oh, she's not? I thought she was for some reason. What was I reading? Maybe she wasn't. Yeah.
Oh, but I know she's part of the UK NXT. And she was, I believe she was up there as a semifinalist last year in the Mae Young Classic. So she really performed well. Definitely a fan favorite. She got a huge pop, during that whole introduction. Caitlyn got a welcome back. She also got a huge chant from the crowd. Yeah. And so there were a couple of key people that people are behind as far as fan favorites. I think Zaya got
Brookside, yeah,
Brookside. She got a kind of a good, I would say like a good chant too, or a good reaction from the crowd. And of course, Io Shirai, one of the top Japanese female wrestlers. Out of the three, there's actually three this time. Last year, Kairi Sane was the only female from Japan to represent Japan. So this year they have three, but Io Shirai is the fan favorite too, and that's my pick for the Mae Young Classic because I've watched several matches with Io, not like the long history, but I've seen a few matches for the past few years and. Definitely one that stands out was the match with Mako, who's actually in this classic too. I don't know if they're going to lock up. It would be cool to see them because it was probably around like 2014. They put on this amazing match, and of course, Io is really known more for. She's kind of got a really really good mix of everything. If you watch her perform, she's really agile. She's really got a lot of moonsaults. I think in a couple of fan interviews, because there's always you always have that question swirling in people's minds about the English language, right? When they come over, how well is it? How well is their English? And for Io, her mom was a English teacher, so she actually is really she's good at speaking English. So a lot of fans asked her questions on Twitter. I think one of the questions was if she was coming over to WWE, who would she like to, what's the dream match? Who would she like to face? And that's Charlotte Flair. Yeah. Because Charlotte Flair, as you know too, is also known for using a lot of moonsaults. So, and that happens to be Io's finisher too.
Yeah, she kind of has Charlotte has a gymnastics background when she was a kid, a volleyball player too.
Yeah, so that was kind of one of the things. But yeah, this is cool to have her be a part of this. She was actually supposed to be a part of this last year, just like Tegan Knox. But Tegan had that injury last year with her ACL. Io also had an injury, so they were not they couldn't compete last in the Mae Young Classic last year. So this year she had the opportunity to go, and so we'll see. I mean, this could go in a lot of different directions, and they can do a lot of different things. Kairi and Io, if any people don't know, some of the things you should be aware of is that Kairi and Io have like a history. If you've watched Stardom and you've kind of followed that throughout their careers, it's kind of like a frenemies kind of thing, right? They had like a lot of matches against each other. They've teamed together. They fought together. They fought against each other. So it's very much like a Sasha and Bayley kind of dynamic, which I think is really good. If they play it right, you can definitely do some great storytelling there. And they're probably the best female competitors from Japan. Like those are the top, so with Io coming over, I know that was like, she got a huge reaction. A lot of people have got their eyes on her as getting into the semifinals at least, if not winning the whole thing. But that's one of my picks for semifinals. I think Toni Storm will definitely be up there again this year. We did hear that because the tapings have happened and they've already started doing some matches. We did hear that Tegan Knox got injured, unfortunately,
it's all over Twitter.
which was it was heartbreaking to hear. We saw on Twitter and she wrote a statement on her iNotes and posted
she's doing
screenshots,
okay,
and she's doing good. She's staying positive, and she has a lot of positive people behind her, and of course, all her fans have chimed into on social media to give their support. So hopefully, I was really looking forward to seeing Tegan kind of move up this year. We just hope she's doing well, recovers, comes back, and go from there. But it's always hard to see stuff like that, see like those kind of injuries happen to, wrestlers that are doing so well. They've got a lot of support behind them, a lot of fandom and things like that. So
speaking of events, so we're talking All In on the show basically in a little bit, but talked Mae Young Classic. But ROH and New Japan just reached an achievement this morning.
Yeah, so, we had talked about this, I think, on the tease the other day, that Ring of Honor and New Japan are doing a show, April 6, 2019.
G1.
Yeah, Madison Square Garden. This is huge. This is huge in wrestling simply because that they're independent companies. And it's overseas, it's New Japan.
And it's Madison Square Garden.
And it's Madison Square Garden.
Which is, we know, the WWE's home.
Yeah, so for them to get that, to secure that venue and to pull this off, it's huge for wrestling. It's huge for anyone that's been a longtime fan, for new fans, for casual fans if you don't get to watch all the time. But this is big for the business and the industry as a whole. So they sold out. That's it.
Yeah.
At Madison Square Garden is completely sold out.
April 6th is is that a Friday?
Let
me look
if
at my
it's
calendar.
Not a Friday, it's a weekend.
Yeah. Let me look at my calendar real quick.
Check that calendar.
December, January, February, April. It's a Saturday. That's NXT, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that one same as WrestleMania weekend, right?
It might be. And it might steal the show, which I really hope it does.
Imagine if there's two great... Well, NXT always has great cards, but in it's probably going to be in Brooklyn this year again because NXT or the WrestleMania is in New York, New Jersey at MetLife. But, man, those two cards, if I'm ROH, I try to book it either earlier in the day. Vince is okay with going up against people, but there could be, how many people in Madison Square Garden? How many people in Barclays Center? That'd be outstanding for wrestling.
Yeah, overall, it's great for wrestling as a whole. Yeah. Obviously, back when we were limited in media and we only had a few major companies going, there was only so many places that the wrestlers could go to. Now they have options. Now we have streaming. It's easier to find different channels to watch wrestling and to access wrestling. And they have other places, organizations besides WWE to perform and to, get televised or to, for people to find their work, because back then, it was the tape trading days and things like that. So, yeah, this is really cool overall. And, I've always been a Ring of Honor supporter. I have tons of DVDs because they didn't have a service. Now they have the Honor Club, which is their own network. So if you're an Honor Club member, subscription you get those, TV pay-per-views, you get the promotions, you get percentages off merchandise. It's like a membership rewards club kind of deal. And it's a good segue into this because Honor Club is going to provide broadcasting for All In.
Yeah, they're going to be one of the streaming platforms.
They're going to be one of the streaming platforms. So this is cool. So we'll jump right into it, All In. But if you want to know more about the Ring of Honor stuff, obviously Ring of Honor, .com is where to go. Bully Ray cut a really cool promo in front of Madison Square Garden.
The de facto ROH commissioner.
Yes, and so no, this is great. I think overall this is going to be good. But All In now, the big news is that we got broadcasting. Broadcasting announcements. So we've got it through Honor Club. Mm-hmm. We've got it on Fight TV.
Fight TV, which streaming site.
Mm-hmm. And then they're also going to push it through on a pay-per-view, right?
Pay-per-view, but before that they have Cody said it's not a pre-show. It's like the show, but it's like an hour before. It's on WG in America, which is huge. It's a super station, like one of the last ones in America. You can see a great opening hour of wrestling for free. Then you can go get the pay-per-view.
Yeah. So the cost of that is $40, which is pretty reasonable. I feel. Nothing.
That's your standard. Former pay-per-view rate?
I think so. I think that's pretty standard. I mean, obviously, sometimes it's always been higher.
Yeah, but WWE's on the pay-per-view.
But this is pretty affordable, right? And the cool thing is if you're fans of wrestling, you're probably just gonna watch it at one place and just everybody
hang out with friends.
Everybody pitches in for food. Everybody pitches in to purchase the pay-per-view. So this is cool, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pitch in and order this thing because we want to see what happens September 1st.
Yeah.
I mean, this is big. This is big in wrestling. The biggest thing that's ever happened in wrestling
since WCW
and WWF when they were doing the Monday Night Wars in the 90s. Nothing like this has ever really happened.
Yeah, Dave Meltzer kept saying that the other day in this All Us video. Mm-hmm. Because it is. What has happened this big in wrestling besides WWE in a while? Nothing.
No.
TNA didn't accomplish this. ROH hasn't accomplished this. New Japan hasn't really accomplished this.
Yeah.
What has happened on American soil since WCW closed against WWE? Nothing.
It's really just been WWE kind of running the show. The other thing is that you had smaller organizations, but just. Again, it was kind of like, how do we access those things? Ring of Honor was still around. They were still chugging along.
TNA had a great couple of years.
CCW was still out there. And, there was some places in Mexico, AAA.
Yeah, AAA is awesome.
We also had, and of course, New Japan. And that was the thing is that I had no way to figure out how to access New Japan at the time. Now they have their own, subscription and streaming thing. So that's cool. But at the time there just wasn't, WWE was the source for wrestling, right? There was no other outlets, and if they were very small, and the fan base was either too small or they just didn't have enough funding to, push out for broadcasting, right? Or for distribution.
Yeah. And
the only way you could get Ring of Honor stuff was if you could go to the website and buy the DVDs, but
or if you had a Sinclair TV station in your market.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So this is, as you said, is fascinating because three guys, really, the Young Bucks, the Jackson brothers, and then Cody Rhodes all believed in each other and was like, I'll take this bet against Dave Meltzer and let's make it happen.
And that's what happened. It really all started over a dollar bet. On a tweet, and that's where we're at. We're at All In September 1st. And
it's great booking, too.
Yeah, it is great booking. So that's 6 Eastern time.
Some of me has this thinking, hey, did Cody help put some of this card together? Because he has the booking genes in his
He does. He's got
bones.
the booking genes from his dad, the Dream.
Yeah. So just no Dusty finishes Cody, please.
Mm-hmm. So we've got some, we've talked a little bit about, who's on the card. We've talked about... obviously we have that women's match that's really going to stand out. I mean, anyone should have, women's matches on their cards because that's that's been happening for a while, and now it's just happening more and more. That momentum is building. So you're going to have that 4-way.
Yeah, Cody talked about this in that All Us they released on YouTube the other day on his YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you're a wrestling fan and you haven't been living under a rock, women's wrestling is like the hottest thing in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been that way, and I've seen a lot of women's matches over the years. I remember watching when, even back then, when
Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano.
Yeah, and then in the TNA days, it was Gail Kim was really taking the charge, and then really paved the way for a lot of those women in TNA.
Trish and Lita in WWE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Trish and Lita, and of course it was very different, right?
Because, and they'll tell you it's different,
and they'll tell you that it's different because they were limited on how long they could perform. They were very short matches. They weren't called wrestlers or superstars back then. They were called divas, and so there was that perception of it just being a one-off match or a bra and panties match or something that wasn't going to really build on anything. When a lot of those women really wanted to wrestle, right?
And that one time they got the main event on Raw. Mm-hmm. It blew everybody out of the water.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's definitely taken off over the past several years, and it's created a lot of amazing female wrestlers, and I think the Mae Young Classic is, again, I think it's just a great platform for them to kind of showcase what they've been doing and kind of help them establish, if not establish a fan base, is continue their growing fan base for each of these female wrestlers. So, if it wasn't for me, if it wasn't for finding out about things like that, or finding out on forums online or people talking about certain things, I probably would have never stumbled or did more research into women's wrestling, or kind of looked at the back, because it's kind of when you find someone that you are really kind of gravitate to, then you kind of go back and find out where they started, right? I think that's really a big one for maybe like Sasha Banks. She was Mercedes in indie wrestling. She looked completely different. She didn't have the boss character at all. And, in interviews, she'll tell you, like, she was doing stuff she wasn't really used to, kind of like doing the modeling poses and looking up to other female wrestlers and kind of saying, oh, maybe I should try this or this. And then, when she came over to NXT, she really discovered that boss character. So it's cool in that aspect, because you can kind of go back through the catalog, and like I say, there's different ways to find those videos now and that media. And so I've done that a lot with Kairi Sane. I've done that with Io Shirai, things, my fan favorites, Dakota Kai. So back to All In, we've got the Briscoe brothers, which I was surprised when
I've heard of them.
You talked to me on the phone. You're like, I'm not really, who are the Briscoe brothers?
Well, I've heard of them before. Like, they're around, but yeah, they're not like the known.
Yeah, so the Briscoes, honestly, they've been the longest tag team in Ring of Honor. Like, that, they've never left Ring of Honor. Like, they've stayed there. They've made a name for themselves there. They've transformed. I feel a couple of different times they've always been Mark and Jay Briscoe, and then they've really kind of elevated not only their in-ring performance, but their transformation as brothers. I remember back watching them, it was hard to distinguish who was Mark and Jay at one time. Yeah, because they look so similar. Now, they've got the crazy looking beards, and they've got the bandanas and stuff, and I feel like they weren't really doing that quite yet, but yeah, they've definitely really transformed and gotten amazing. I mean, it's cool to see them do the things that they can do and the promos that they're doing now, and they've definitely they've been one of the longtime tag teams in Ring of Honor. So they're gonna be there at All In, and they're going against SCU, which is Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky.
Which is going to be awesome, because those guys, Kazarian, really underrated. If anybody knows who's watched him in TNA and Impact, really good. Yeah,
and he's really, really underrated.
I believe part of that PWG movement in California.
Yeah. So obviously for wrestling fans or new wrestling fans or people that are just interested in it. PWG has been one of the really cool indie promotions here in California, in Southern California.
Yeah.
And so
Rick Bassman, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've produced
John Cena.
tons of wrestlers that you might have seen. I mean, that's where they go. I've seen. I had like one of the DVDs, and that's when I first saw the Bucks for the first time. They were doing the. They still wear the similar stuff with the streamers, but they were nothing like what they are today.
John Cena was down there, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where he got to start.
John Cena was
90s.
down there. So yeah,
Samoa Joe.
Yeah, Joe was there. AJ's wrestled there. Adam Cole's been there.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone has probably come through PWG at some point.
John Morrison,
Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, who was El Generico.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are a lot of big names now, and PWG is really kind of let those guys kind of go. And,
kind of a developmental territory.
Yeah, and let them tell their own story and let them kind of, have some fun in promos. And really, PWG was just fun. Mm-hmm. It was just a small, intimate crowd of people crowded in that Rosita place, that building. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're not there anymore. They've moved on to another place in SoCal. I don't remember. I haven't really kept up with PWG, but yeah, those are great DVDs to grab. PWG, of course, on their website, Pro Guerrilla Wrestling.
Yeah.
So, and of course, Christopher Daniels has been there. So now we were talking a little bit about this match.
Southern California guy too.
He's a SoCal guy. So yeah, Christopher Daniels will be performing at All In, and he will be going against Stephen Amell.
Which is interesting because Christopher Daniels, he's always looked at his character, he's that Dark Angel. Mm-hmm. Kind of anti-establishment guy also, but man, pairing him with Stephen Amell is interesting.
It is, and it really it works because of the storyline.
It's good booking.
Yeah, it's good booking. There's for anyone that's not familiar with that storyline, definitely go to Being the Elite and check out the Young Bucks YouTube channels. The interesting and cool thing about this as a wrestling fan is that this coincides with what's happening in the storylines in the organizations. So they're able to really, it kind of turned into like a semi-documentary kind of thing following the Bucks and their travels and different things. And they're talking, they're doing their fan thing. But at the same time, it's also interweaving stories and conversations and discussions, like sub-stories, like side, kind of, I guess if you want to say side quests, a gaming reference, but that's what's going on in these. And you can pick up a lot of things, and then it kind of crosses over into, the organizations that they're wrestling for. So obviously Stephen Amell and Christopher Daniels were kind of intertwined in this long storyline, which you haven't seen yet, but having to do with Joey Ryan and the disappearance or death of Joey Ryan. So there's a whole long thing with that. So that's why they're coming to heads, and that's that'll be interesting because we've only seen Stephen Amell perform, I think, once
at SummerSlam a couple years ago with Cody Rhodes, actually.
So I'll be interested to see what he's going to do and how he's going to perform.
And who's been training with still?
Yeah, that would be cool. Who's been training with? So that's definitely on the card. Of course, we've got the Jay Lethal made an announcement.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. He
the ROH champ.
He's the ROH champ, and he wasn't on the card, and he thought, why not defend my title? Whoever wins this over budget battle royal, which they're having a battle royal at All In.
Colt Cabana's part of it.
Yeah, and Colt Cabana's part of it. And so Jay Lethal said to the winner of that, he'll put his title up on the line, and they'll have a match. So that's cool. We'll kind of see who, who's gonna, come up on top for this.
Hey, Kenny Omega hasn't been announced yet, so.
And that's the big thing, right?
Is he gonna be in the Battle Royal?
Kenny Omega has not been announced. I don't know. Do you put Kenny Omega in the Battle Royal, or do you have him have a singles match with somebody?
Against who though for that singles match?
And that's the thing, is we're not sure. And that's the last thing that we haven't seen. Almost all the card is filled out with the exception of Kenny Omega.
Jericho's in Kansas that night, by the way.
Yeah, so unless they do a surprise. Marty Scurll will be fighting Okada. This I'm looking forward to this. This should be really entertaining.
Yeah, if people don't know who Okada is, man, that guy is so good.
Kazuchika Okada is probably the hottest thing New Japan has got right now.
8 stars.
Yeah. Is it?
No.
8?
I don't know how many Meltzer
I don't know.
now.
But, I mean, you know, it's cool to see the transformation of Okada over the past several years into the Rainmaker character. And then, of course, he's kind of he's changing a little bit. He kind of changed his hair. But, you know, he was coming...
I've heard this like thing, like people compare him to John Cena of New Japan. Is that accurate or is that like inaccurate?
You know, I've seen him when he had the black hair and you know, he looks nothing like, he didn't come in a fancy robe. They kind of stereotyped him with like the Asian kind of theme music and the Asian kind of outfit. Yeah. So I guess, I mean, I don't really remember John Cena's kind of thing. He was just in jean shorts and a
yeah, but I meant like the character wise, it's like a baby face and stuff like that, like
I'd say that's fair to say. You know, and I think it really has to do a lot with the manager as well that he has, which is great. And but no, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
Like because I know Okada's big and like those matches he's had with Kenny Omega, like they're legendary already. But like he's gaining more popularity like every year.
No, he's like he's like the super baby face. You know, like people are rooting for him.
Could you see him in WWE? One day?
Yeah, I mean, I could see him in WWE. I feel like he could adapt to that like much. If AJ can do it.
Is he better than Shinsuke?
Boy, that's tough. And I've seen them. I saw them at Wrestle Kingdom go at it, and that was a really incredible match. That's hard.
Because Shinsuke has been the biggest Japanese wrestler in how many years it came over?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know accurately for the years on that.
Yeah,
yeah, I would say is Okada younger? Yes. Is he better? He's really athletically
different styles,
really
right?
Good.
Though,
but it is very different styles because when you watch Shinsuke,
strong style.
It's a strong style, so it's very different. You know, versus what Okada's doing. I feel like Okada overall, as an athletic performer, is fantastic, and Shinsuke's there too. I feel like Shinsuke could tell better stories, but Okada's not quite there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but because Shinsuke's been there and he has more of the experience, and Okada's the younger guy. I think Okada will get there. He's definitely got it. He's got the psychology down. He's selling. Him and Kenny have put on like probably some of the best matches I've ever seen in a long time.
Dave Meltzer thinks they're the best matches of all time.
Yeah, I guess from a New Japan perspective, yes.
Yeah, from New Japan. That's
if we were comparing overall,
it's different. Yeah, it's different styles in the States.
Because watching a New Japan match is really very different from watching a WWE match or a lucha style match. It's just a different style. It's just, and then once you kind of are accustomed to that, you'll know why it's really strong style and high impact, and just it's grueling.
Well, right? What will we see out of Marty Scurll though versus Okada? What kind
of? Well, Marty's gonna have to pull out the villain stuff for sure. He's gonna have to pull out the villain tactics. I mean, he's in this storyline right now with he's going trying to be a heavyweight, right? But he's not.
No.
And so that's the running joke kind of in being the elite. And, he's trying to work with Nick Aldis. There's an angle on that where he's asking for advice for him and trying to be a heavyweight because, obviously you know who Nick Aldis is, big guy. Definitely that guy is a huge heavyweight. I think even Cody said that too. Yeah, you don't really notice it until you're like right there. You're like, golly, this guy's huge.
Kind of has that Scott Hall vibe.
Yeah, very much. And so I think Marty's got his work cut out from him, and even I'll let you watch being the elite, but he was asking somebody in there, and they said he's screwed. Yeah, he's going against Okada. You're done. And also the cool thing about that some of that footage too is we saw a lot of cameos. I don't know if you watched it, but DDP was in there.
I haven't watched it yet. Really.
Yeah,
I've only watched All Us.
So you should check it out. So Cody's in there talking. There's a whole thing where he's doing a campaign, political campaign, and so there's like two characters. You only see their hands. They're basically what we would call smarks, right? You know, they're telling him what they think they should do, and this and that. And so I actually know who this hand is, and because the hands do different gestures, but they're done by two different wrestlers, and they're two different voices. This one is Christopher Daniels. I can tell, even though he kind of changed his voice, I can tell it's him. But anyways, he's talking about like not running for a campaign and this and that. And DDP's back there. They're in like a training facility ring, and he's just kind of hanging out. And he said something. Then he's like, "You're what? I can't believe it." And then he walks off. He's like so disappointed that Cody's not doing this whole. He's not running for what I don't know what it was for, but it was really funny. And there was another cameo in there by someone else, but DDP I remembered for sure. I'd have to look at it again, and it just kind of made me chuckle because those are the things that you can play with on doing a YouTube episodic content, where you can't do that in an organization, right? You can meet with all these guys, and Billy Gunn. So they saw Billy Gunn at a signing somewhere, and they're like, it's just they're following both Nick and Matt. And I want to say Nick was like, "Oh, he hates it when we do this." And it's like, let's go up to him and they start singing his theme music.
Oh, yeah.
And then they go behind him, and then he's like, "Oh, come on, guys." And but it's funny, right? Because you recognize all these other wrestlers from a different era that they're interacting with, and that's cool. It's kind of like a really awesome crossover.
I think that's what they've done best for this All In, social media wise. They've done these things on Cody's YouTube, the Young Bucks YouTube. They made it All In YouTube. They even did it. They're doing it with the NWA YouTube.
Yes.
With the 10 pounds of gold. With it's more featuring the point of view from Nick Aldis.
Nick Aldis, right?
Yeah.
And of course, he's gonna face Cody Rhodes.
But they get stuff from Cody Rhodes on that also. But it's fascinating because the way they're put their minds together of it's the Young Bucks, it's Cody, even Billy Corgan's probably part of this with the NWA stuff. Dave Lagana is definitely part of it because he's part of the NWA thing with Billy Corgan and Nick Aldis. So it makes you think of the perspective that the way they're building this matches has the kind of vibe of the 90s matches and pay-per-views a little bit because they're doing these pre-package of stuff that's going on. But it's going to be fascinating to see in a couple weeks because I want to, in my opinion, there's more news around All In and NXT than there is SummerSlam right now.
Right, and that's the thing too is as an organization you want to kind of stick with the program and try and build a storylines, and that's kind of where it's rough when you have the brand split, right? You've got talent split up all over with WWE. With All In, the reason why it's interesting is because it's new. Because it's
the first one.
It's the first one, and it's all the things that you thought couldn't happen are happening. All these wrestlers that are gonna wrestle each other, that couldn't happen anywhere else.
Dream matchups, kind of.
Dream matches, kind of what like Jericho's doing with his cruise. Like there's certain wrestlers that haven't wrestled before that are actually going to wrestle on this cruise. That's another one that's going to be interesting too.
Omega's going to be on the cruise too.
I know, and but that's your boy, right, Jericho? Yeah. Are you gonna order that? Are you gonna watch that?
I don't know.
Really? You're not sure? You're not sure on the cruise?
I'm not sure on the cruise.
Yeah, and of course that's kind of cool seeing him being involved in some storylines too. And I think they've done a great job marketing all this, right? They've done a great job like filming different things behind the scenes when they're traveling, who they're interacting with, how they're going to do it, and kind of getting all these storylines wrapped up into All In.
Well, yeah, I think a couple people have helped it, though. I've seen from Cody's Twitter is Conrad Thompson, who's doing the StarCast stuff.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys in the background. Probably Bruce Pritchard's involved somehow in giving advice to Cody and the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
Somehow. But there are people we don't even know about in the background that's helping Cody and these guys do all this brilliant stuff from production-wise and storyline-wise.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing, that this will be really special. I think we're in for a good treat. There's a lot of cool stuff happening the weekend before. There's Flip's All Out Party, which
is very nearby.
Yeah, which is very nearby. It'll be interesting if they even get footage of that, or if that's what's going to happen there. That's for the fans. then there's of course the star cast, which for the fans as well. So there's going to be all kinds of other
the day
people
before.
there.
Yeah, a couple days before Friday, Saturday.
So that it'll be fun. It's kind of like its own. If you think about it, it's its own indie WrestleMania. Yeah, it's really what it is.
Their weekend.
Yeah, it's their weekend.
And doing it in Chicago. Like, Chicago might be the best wrestling city in America, some people say. Because to me, every time I think of Chicago, I think of there's always been a great wrestling moment in Chicago. If it goes back to Jericho in '99, debuting in WWE, if it goes back to WrestleMania 22, which I think is really underrated. That's the year Rey Mysterio, I believe, beat, who was it, Kurt Angle he beat for the championship? But that was a great WrestleMania. Edge and McFoley had one of the best matches I think I've ever seen. Yeah. That's really underrated. Then it's Steve Austin and Bret Hart the night that wrestling changed, basically. Yep. They switched roles.
The double turn.
It's Chicago's the perfect place they picked to have this
first All-In. And it probably just made sense, and like you said, there's a lot of working parts that, obviously we probably don't know
Middle
about.
of the country. Yeah.
And, kind of trying to appease everyone overall. But this is great because for us, we'll be able to obviously watch it through stream.
Yeah.
And, everybody else who doesn't purchase it will be able to watch it and then determine whether this is something they want to buy into or not. So that's cool that they're doing that first hour for free, They're not really calling it the pre-show. They're calling it like 0 hour. Yeah. All-In 0 hour is what it's called. But yeah, we'll figure out where we're going to get it from. And then, of course, we'll talk about that when September rolls around. We'll cover it and give you the up to speed on what happened at All In.
Before we go today, let's hit on some quick news, though. NXT, that got even more interesting the other night.
That's right.
With Aleister Black now being out for a while because of a groin injury.
Yep, which you saw that,
it's a good storyline.
It is a really cool storyline, and Dustin and I talked a little bit about this.
Rikishi did it.
The Rikishi did it I did it for The Rock.
Still one of the best lines ever.
And so, they were talking, kind of comparing that parallel universe, right, from the 90s when that was when Rikishi attacked Stone Cold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a very similar storyline to what's happening now in NXT. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that unfolds. Obviously, William Regal's told us the news on Aleister Black. It will now be Gargano and Ciampa in an Iron Man.
Oh, I thought it was
Last Man. Iron Man, Last Man Standing, right?
Yeah,
Last Man Standing. Yeah, it's a Last Man Standing match. Yeah. So because they had an Iron Man match last time, right?
Yeah, finishes. I believe or did they have Last Man Standing again? And I forget one of those. But it's the end of the trilogy.
Yeah, it's the end of the trilogy. It's the Last Man Standing match, and this is great. But it is disappointing just because Aleister Black was on a roll and he was.
And there was kind of like the friction momentum right there.
Mm-hmm. They were starting to build that with Gargano and Black, right?
Yeah, but what I believe is going to happen, I think Johnny Gargano is going to win. I think Ciampa's going to move up. I think it's going to, once Aleister Black comes back, they're going to have a match with Johnny Gargano.
Yeah.
I don't know who moves up after that.
Gargano goes up?
Yeah, maybe. Something like that has to happen.
I think so. It's a possibility, of course, in the world of wrestling.
Ciampa joins Paul Heyman?
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be really interesting.
He's been at NXT recently, Paul Heyman.
Really? Oh, that's right. You did. Yeah, you did mention that. And the one thing I liked about this whole story angle too was
who did it.
Yeah, not only who did it, but when they were filming it, I like it because it felt like the backstage world of where everybody wants to be. It felt like you were just kind of walking back there with your shaky smartphone, and you were seeing like all of these people, like what they're doing, like they're getting ready to leave. Like Shayna Baszler put on her shades, walked off.
Undisputed Era left, peeling out.
Yeah, it was like Undisputed Era was in a car, and Adam's just like, all right, let's go, and they just roll out. It was like everything that happens like after the show's over, like we're packing up, we're getting ready to go. Kyrie and Candice were sitting there, people were asking asking what happened.
Gargano's walking back into the building.
Gargano walks back in the building. Cassius Ohno joins Kyrie and Candice at like some coffee table.
Yeah. Who did it?
You had Ricochet, like he was like getting in a car. He was waiting for a driver. So it was cool. Like stuff like that to me is really cool. Like from a videography perspective, just to kind of, it makes you feel more ingrained with, the product, right? Like you feel more of a part of that and what's going on behind the scenes. So yeah, that's the big question on NXT now. People are wondering who did it. And then of course now that makes that the final match on the card for NXT.
Yeah, and they'll have a go-home show this Wednesday, I believe. So they're getting you ready for Saturday with TakeOver. Monday's go-home, 2 for Raw, and then Tuesday for SmackDown. So
yeah.
Actually, the card for SummerSlam's not that bad looking right now, and it's really underrated, I think.
It really isn't, but that's the thing is every time I feel like when NXT runs parallel with, one of the WWE cards, I'm always drawn more to the NXT show than I am anything else. We've seen that in the past where, when you've got an NXT show on a WrestleMania weekend, like that sells out fast, and people are talking more about that than they're talking about the main
because
thing.
It's a Saturday, it helps too?
It might be. I mean, I think your audience might have more flexibility on a Saturday, like, to get out there and to enjoy themselves a little bit more than a Sunday. So, because obviously of work schedules and things like that.
Yeah. Anything else before you want to go today, Ben?
We are in the home stretch. NXT Brooklyn Force coming, SummerSlam's coming. We'll keep you posted on that. And that's it for wrestling watching from Ringside. Wrestling. There it is again.
Tough day, Ben?
Tough day at the office, right?
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. By the way, it wasn't Scott Hall. It was actually Billy Gunn that Cody kind of referenced about Nick Aldis. It's like, you don't really look at him and you think he's that big, but once you're up close, it's
that
Billy
was
Gunn.
a reference.
Yeah.
And that's probably a nod to Billy Gunn in the videos, YouTube.
Oh, my phone's
ringing. You're buzzing.
Okay, let's get out of here, guys.
All right, peace.
Next, watching from Ringside next week right here on KXVS, the voice of Stockton.